get into like copyright problems.
No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry. Hey, little darling, don't shed no tear. No woman, no cry. Good friends we have and good friends we've lost along the way. In this great future, you can't forget your past. So dry your tears, I say. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be.
I am queen of the most powerful nation in the world, and my entire family is gone. Have I not given everything?
And when I wake up,
Welcome to Countdown to Infinity, a Marvel's Avengers podcast. We talk all things Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we are talking about a brand new MCU movie, a sequel to the acclaimed movie from, oh my gosh, when did that movie come out? 2018. The 2018 film Black Panther. We're talking Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This will be a spoiler-free discussion. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, it's okay. You can listen to this. We'll talk about some of the things we enjoyed from the movie, some things to look out for in our overall impressions without going into too much detail about the plot, the fates of some of our characters, and any of the new things that will be really fun and surprising, I think, for you. We're really excited. My name's Emmanuel.
My name's Brent.
And we're... we just watched the movie.
we just watched Wakanda Forever. Saw it in IMAX.
Yeah, and you know what?
Hook up. Yeah.
Generally, we don't pod right after watching a movie. Like we'll watch a movie, or for our Star Wars podcast, like we'll watch the episode of Andor, and it'll be like days before we pod again.
Yeah.
Do you like how fresh it is in the mind? Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Or do you like to kind of marinate in it for a couple of weeks?
You know, not quite a couple of weeks. I don't really need a couple of weeks, but I do like to marinate typically and kind of let things sink in. Like oftentimes not anytime, but most of the time when I watch like a new movie, at least in terms of Letterboxd and like quantifying how I feel about it or writing about it or rating it, like I'll wait till the next day and just kind of see how it's like sitting with me. And so I mean, this is coming fresh. This week, it's coming hot off the press.
If you so here's just some general, I think here's a general premise for the new movie Wakanda Forever. After the untimely death, I'm not writing this, Brent. This is off the dome. Okay, this is literally mind writing happening right now.
Mind writing. Wow.
Isn't that just thinking? Isn't mind writing just like...
I think it's thoughts? Just human thought. Yeah.
Well, anyways, after the untimely death of King T'Challa, the leaders of Wakanda face threats from multiple fronts, including, I would say, like certain nations on the planet Earth, and a new threat in the undersea nation of Talokan, ruled by Namor, who is kind of an interpretation of a really, I think, old era comic book villain slash anti-hero that is Namor the Submariner. There's a lot of going on in this movie. We'll get into some of the characters and some of the themes of the stuff, but just since we've established we just saw the movie a couple hours ago, Brent, what did you think of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever?
I think it was really good, and I liked it a lot. That's my kind of like quick summation of how I feel about it. Certain things I'm like still like, let's see, how I feel on rewatch of that specific thing or stuff like that. But when we talk about this movie, it's kind of insane that they made it, right? Like, because I was thinking about this on the drive home of like how many how many movies do they make a sequel to where like the person died in the original and then they make a sequel that they have to confront that loss and they take it head on. This movie takes it head on in ways that I found really interesting and cool, and respectful of kind of how they worked it into it. But yeah, I think that it was really bold of them to make this movie in the first place, and I think it's basically as good as it could have been, which is pretty damn good. Like, I think the first movie, upon rewatching it like last week, was the first time since I'd seen it, in theaters. I was like, man, this movie is really capturing something special. And I think, the first movie really has, it has Chadwick going for it, and it has
Michael B. Jordan. Yeah.
who are both like incredible. And like Chadwick in that movie, I almost think it's like a little underappreciated how good he is in that movie. And like you do feel something missing in this one. And it's obvious that it's the main character of this series. But what they do with that loss and what they do with kind of the legacy of Black Panther and of the roles of leaders of nations and things like that with Namor and the leaders of Wakanda. I'll just leave it there, I guess. I think is really interesting and cool. It's got some incredible performances, some really exciting set pieces. I mean, it's an MCU movie, so that stuff is kind of going to be there. But it really does have like a heart to it that I was really hoping was going to be there with like the loss of Chadwick and stuff. It really feels like that fueled kind of like the heart of the story. Even if there's a lot of elements, there's the MCU kind of like world building stuff that they're going to get in there, and they do that. But there's a good heart to the movie. So I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it is really rare. I think even with some of the highest profile versions of, actors passing away, like The Dark Knight or like The Crow, those movies captured something in the zeitgeist because people went to go see maybe one of the final performances of those actors. But this is a movie that it was written and constructed to kind of address the loss in a really interesting way that I don't think we've ever seen before. And let's be honest, the MCU is maybe the most watched like monoculture thing for everyone. Everybody watches MCU movies, generally. So it's really cool to see it on that level. But the movie in itself just kind of reminds me how great, I think we talked about this walking out of the movie theater, how great a burden it is to be Ryan Coogler to kind of manage such a high stakes, kind of, large sequences, massive, box office expectations franchise, and a really personal story, which ultimately, even with Suri, Ramonda, or the Queen of Wakanda, all of the Lupita Nyong'o's character, like it still felt incredibly personal and maybe cathartic for them, even though they're portraying, quite honestly, like fantastical, like Hamlet characters. These are all kings and queens and generals managing a country, but it was really heartfelt. And I think a lot of audience members will feel that catharsis too watching it. And they do, and it's not heavy-handed. And I think, Brent, you and I were really scared going to the movie because we've seen versions of this kind of like honoring people who have passed that is really, really, I would say borderline like emotionally manipulative, like, and this wasn't that heavy-handed. People did cry in our movie theater, but it wasn't necessarily them, just really hammering in the fact that somebody was gone. And I thought I really appreciated that because all of the characters in this movie are dealing with this loss in different ways. And none of them are directly like the right way, but you see kind of how it plays into this broader thing that's happening. You're right. There's a lot of world building in this. There's connections like Ironheart, who's getting her own show on Disney Plus, that I thought was pretty good. The way that they kind of included her. There were other characters that you could tell were, without spoiling anything, that a lot of people didn't even know are in this movie, or like it wasn't super highlighted, but felt a little more shoehorned, I guess, than other things. But I mean, that's kind of unavoidable, I think, with Marvel. And that, I think we kind of wrestled with the finale because landing the plane isn't necessarily always perfect for Marvel when you have so many elements. But I think they did a good job. I don't know what you thought. Like, I think they did an okay job because we were gaming it out in the car. Like, here's all of the other ways they can end such a big movie like Wakanda Forever. Yeah. And a lot of them weren't great. Like, the other options were kind of either way over the top, forced, or just stuff we've seen 100 times before. So I ended up falling on the side of like, they did a good job. Like, the ending was pretty solid for what they had.
I think so too, definitely. Yeah, because we were kind of talking about how like on top of ending a movie with its own on-screen characters and plot and kind of the conflict and things like that, you have this kind of like looming presence of the mantle of Black Panther, the kind of legacy of T'Challa and all that stuff. And and I think they managed that pretty well. Man, I almost just I keep wanting to like dive into.
And we can't like I want to talk about some of these characters, but we can't just because we can't. Because our feelings are so attached to where they end up, toward the resolution of the movie. But I do want to talk about Tenoch Huerta, who plays Namor, or Namor. Like, they pronounce him multiple ways in the movie.
Yeah.
What did you think about his character, without, of course, like talking about the way it ends up for him? But what do you think about Namor and oh my gosh, sorry, my cat's going.
Cat's going buck wild. Yeah.
It's like real life
cat cameo. Wow.
Yeah, but what do you think about Namor and Talokan and kind of the I guess the interpretation of him in this movie?
Yeah, I liked Namor. I'm not gonna nail rolling my R's.
You're not gonna try to roll your R hard.
I've practiced. I can't do it. I'm not good at it. But yeah, I think the actor Tenoch Huerta does a really great job, and I think it's such a cool design. Like, I kept thinking that throughout the movie, and like if you've seen the trailer, like kind of what he looks like. Like, he looks so fucking cool. And I like what they do with his character and his motivations. And Talokan is his kind of kingdom. Without going into specifics, I think all that stuff is like really cool, awesome, and really well done. And kind of like beautifully executed, like artistically, and you'll kind of see what I mean. There's some really cool sequences. Um, but yeah, I like that. Like, I guess the movie isn't just called Wakanda Forever, right? Yeah, Black Panther Wakanda
Mhm.
Forever. So it's still in the title. But without spoiling things, like I like that this movie, has a broader focus than a superhero, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
um,
he represents something, and
yeah,
emotionally, but also I would say like in the broader scope of, I guess, like the telling of the human story, he represents a very important part of that,
yeah,
and kind of his own version of Black Panther in a lot of ways in the movie, um, which was, really interesting. And honestly, like a formidable anti-hero. And we just got Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger in the first Black Panther. And it seems like, in terms of villains, and there's only two Black Panther movies, so there's not like a
yeah,
giant repertoire of Black Panther films so far, but they're really nailing, I think, whatever the foil is to the Wakandans.
yeah.
This is another great one. Like,
I think so. Yeah, you said formidable, and that is absolutely what I thought a couple times watching the movie. I was like, this,
yeah,
without spoiling things, like he's a
it's
worthy
cool.
foe,
Yeah,
and there are some really fun uh uh world buildy thing.
yeah.
I'll
It's
stop there. Just
well,
there's some
yeah,
cool
and
things they do with him. Yeah.
it's grounded in a real culture, Mayan culture.
Mhm.
And I think that only lends itself to making the character just super filled out, because there's moments in this where they speak, Mayan, and then they switch to Wakandan, and then they're speaking
It's
English,
a lot
and
of
then they're
languages.
speaking, French.
Yeah.
They're speaking all kinds of languages, but I feel like it's because of just the richness of these cultures. I mean, if you
Mhm.
think about it, Wakanda and Talokan, they have just stayed in away from the rest of the world for so long that they're able to still keep the heritage, and they're not
Yeah.
like, yeah, they're not like real life, which is interesting and really fun, I think. And you're right, like the production design. I mean, and we can't really skip over the fact that the first Black Panther movie won Oscars for
Yeah.
costume, for I think it won for music and production design. And I think after watching this movie, I think it's a totally fair thing to say the production design is still really great. The music really,
Absolutely.
it's still really great and inspired.
Mhm.
Sounds and things you've never heard before. There's some specific scenes where the music and sound and production design all kind of crescendo into like
Yeah.
giant moments. I'm thinking of maybe like the first time you see the people from Talokan, like those types of
That's the
things.
sequence I was thinking of, man. Yeah, it's
So
so
good.
well done. Yeah. And it's like that's the stuff where, like, and this was the case with the first Black Panther too, where it's like, um, you know, speaking about Marvel, the MCU movies in general, a lot of them, and even the best ones, can have a bit of that same MCU kind of like some sameness there, like some stuff that feels a little bit like something you've seen in one of the other movies, but like it's truly a testament to like a great director like Ryan Coogler, or like I don't know, like Taika in Ragnarok, at least. No offense to Love and Thunder. I like Love and Thunder. But it's like a testament to like a unique, specific director when you have sequences like that, or like some others in Wakanda Forever, where you're just like, this is like a cool take, and it's like not something that feels like a house style or like anything generic. It's like specific decisions being made by like very creative people, which is cool to see.
Let's talk about another new addition to this movie. And I know we're not talking about a lot of the characters from the first Black Panther, but it's only because it's hard not to spoil the movie without sharing our full thoughts on like Shuri and Nakia and Okoye and Queen Ramonda. Like, the things that happen to them are like astronomically like world shifting for Wakanda and the MCU that we can't get into too much detail. But I do want to talk about Dominic Thorne playing Riri Williams or Ironheart. What did you think about her in the movie? She's in the trailer. We know she's like in a Lexus commercial for this movie, so we know she's in the movie. What did you think about her addition and kind of her dynamic with the rest of the cast?
I think she's really fun. You know, again, without like going into specific like story stuff and how she factors in, which is important to the movie, and I think and done in a cool way. It definitely left me not knowing much about her.
Yeah,
You know,
that's true.
but very intrigued and like I want to know more because like they're you know the movie shows enough where you're like this character is really cool and fun and
Yeah,
I can't wait to see you know like I'm hoping that Disney Plus show is like maybe some origin stuff. It sounds like her or I don't know like anything
yeah,
about the Ironheart comics. So again, it'll be like one of the cool Disney Plus experiences for me where I'm like going in blind. Like I can't wait to see what this character is about. So yeah, I hope they show like some of her origin stuff because some of that's alluded to and it sounds really fun and well, maybe not all of it fun, but it
yeah.
sounds intriguing and like very different and kind of unique for the MCU. So I'm pretty excited to yeah to see more of her and other stuff.
Yeah, I think she was really I mean, and this is one of the things I was talking about, like, it could have been incredibly out of place to have her, but it's kind of she's kinda integral to the story, at least,
Mhm.
the plot. She has great rapport with Suri and the rest of the, characters that she interacts with, but she's like the spiritual successor to Iron Man. She's a newer addition to, like, the Marvel comic books, and you're right, though. They're pretty efficient with her backstory a lot of times in this. And I feel like it's because obviously it's not about her, but it is cool to see her. I do hope we see more. And it's yeah, I mean it's a cool thing to have someone who's not from Wakanda because she's an American. She's from Chicago. She's going to
That's
MIT,
right.
So
That's
like
right. Yeah.
it's always cool to have that perspective. And I think in the first one, Martin Freeman obviously had that because he wasn't supposed to be there. And he's back in this movie, but in a smaller role. And I think it's cool to kind of show that
Do you
side.
real quick? Do you want to feel very old?
Yes,
Because
I do.
guess how old Riri Williams
Oh no,
was when Tony Stark was trapped in the cave with a box of scraps.
like 10 or something.
She
12.
was 5 years old.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we're all old people now.
Yeah. And I got to say this about the MCU. A lot of the things that they're leading up to are skewing younger, like Young Avengers stuff. They're introducing like the next gen. So you and I are probably aged out of being in the MCU now. We're too old.
I'm gonna be playing. The official announcement
Yeah.
is coming soon, but I think I can say here that I'm gonna be playing Peter Parker's great uncle
Wow.
in
Yeah.
a upcoming Disney Plus show.
You're telling me
Mhm.
that you are on par with Aunt May? Is that her name? Yeah. Like you're telling me that
I just realized that that didn't make sense what I said because I just described Aunt May and Uncle Ben.
yeah,
Because Uncle Ben is
who
his
look great, by the way. Like they
I mean,
both
Aunt May,
look
listen,
better than us now.
absolutely 1000%. I hope to age 1/10 as well as Marissa Tomei has.
Yeah. Well, let's I guess wrap up our spoiler-free discussion with some final thoughts on Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I know we couldn't really talk about it too much because of spoilers, but Brent, what are your final thoughts on Black Panther Wakanda Forever? Anything that you want to tell people going into it?
Yeah, I really liked it a lot. I think they managed to again I think they managed to kind of thread that needle of like the impossible circumstances of the process of making this movie, of telling their own story, but also of one that is impacted by that loss in some pretty um, pretty powerful ways.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I think that it tells its own interesting story that has bigger themes than most MCU things. Like that's what I really like too so far about both Black Panther movies is like they are thematically doing something a little deeper than other MCU projects, and they're all fun. They're all like a good time, but like it's cool to see kind of like the sights aimed a little higher in these Black Panther movies, and they managed to do some really awesome stuff with the whole cast, and yeah, and Namor too. Like I think he's a really cool kind of foil to, I'll just say, Wakanda in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a really I enjoy it because it reminds me a lot of the first Black Panther in the way that these worlds are so rich, they're so textured. The stories are really complicated. This could have been a fairly simple movie, but it's 2.5 hours long, and it's sort of still very light on its feet at that runtime. I know it's really, really long, but
Yeah.
it is kind of a chess match between the Namor and the people of Wakanda, and I think it's really fun to see it. And it's still a really personal movie, dealing with grief, dealing with loss, dealing with how to react to things that are unexpected like that, which is great. And I think it's I hope that this movie especially gets a chance to kind of directly deal with the loss of its star. Um, yeah, and so it doesn't feel that disingenuous or anything. And I will say this too, like tonally, the movie is all kind of good. Like there's only one after credit scene that actually fits into the movie. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? And even then, it kind of breaks the Marvel mode of, oh, by the
It
way,
does,
here's
man.
this
Yeah.
other thing. But I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like that's just kind of the level of respect for what this movie's trying to do. And you're right. You started off saying this movie probably had everything up against it, which is true. And we shouldn't judge a movie based on a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. But the main actor passes away. And then there's just a ton of stuff backstage or behind the scenes that you hear of that make you really worried for just even
Sure. Yeah.
the finishing of the film. And it's a really good movie. I think it's worth watching on a giant screen because
Yeah.
we were talking about production design earlier, but it looks really good too. The worlds that you see and the people that you see and the sequences, the action sequences, all of that is really well done. And I guess Ryan Coogler, my goodness, what will he do next, huh, Brent? You want him to have a Star Wars? That's like you
I mean,
want
hey,
everyone to say Star Wars.
give everyone a Star Wars. I mean, rumors that I've heard are that they want Coogler to be the new kind of Russo brothers. Like I have heard they want him for Secret Wars. I think he's about as good of a pick as you can get for a project like that.
Yeah.
Like I think
he knows that balance really well, and and I think we were talking about this too when we left the theater. And we love Marvel, we love the MCU, but the amount of pressure to do things a certain way and to introduce things and to like fill in the Marvel stuff must be so hard. And he tends to kind of like really go against that and be like, hey, I want this to be about something that everyone can empathize with. I think that's really good. Or he wants to show a side of a story that no one's seen before. I think that's really great and admirable. But cool.
Yeah.
We hope that you watch Black Panther Wakanda Forever this weekend. We will have a full long episode coming out on Monday. But for now, Brent, what do you have to plug?
Oh man. Yeah, just all the Delphin Pod Patreon stuff. We got Screen Slush on there where we're talking new shows, new movies, old shows, old movies, top fives, all sorts of cool, good, fun stuff, movie trivias. And Countdown Strikes Back, where we are covering Andor. And also we just recorded a little Tales of the Jedi episode. We recorded that, right? Yeah, we did. Andor, which is fucking amazing so far. It's so good. Maybe the best thing since like the original trilogy. Really,
Wow.
really good.
I gotta watch that today.
I gotta finish it. I got halfway through, and it's great so far. Really wild. So yeah, I'm gonna finish it. But yeah, go check all those out.
Yeah, let us know what you thought about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Go to @DelphinPod, DelfinPod on all social media. Support the pod on patreon.com/DelphinPod. You will see us, or you will hear us at least next week. Thanks so much. Bye.
See ya.